Hi, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm going to finish up By the Well for God's This I Know kit. When I saw the stamps for this kit, I had a really fun idea of creating this door on a tag and then cutting out those windows and making them out of vellum. So I made sure to stamp those windows with Stays On ink on the vellum because the vellum can be a little slippery. And then I just took my regular VersaFine ink and stamped the door on the tag and then used clear embossing powder so I can have that little shine on all the edges because I'm going to come in and use some Distress Oxides on that later. Now I emboss the VersaFine ink simply because I like the look of it, but it also really helps keep the Distress Oxide inks in the right place. I don't want the Distress Oxides to move around so much like watercolor does usually, and since I'm using them with water and getting that watercolor look, I want them to stay in the right place. So embossing helps so much with that. Now I'm not really doing anything unusual with these Distress Oxides. I'm using them like watercolors like I've done so many times before, but it is one of my favorite ways to use Distress Oxides. I'm taking 2 browns and also that pumice stone gray. I really want to make the door look aged. I'm not thinking about where the sun's hitting or not. I'm not trying to do that kind of shading, but I am just using the colors in different places on the door to add that old look. I'm really happy with the way this turned out, but you don't have to use so many different colors of Distress Oxides because they do have different colors in the ink itself. When it gets wet, it turns different colors, which is why I love frayed burlap so much. It is one of my favorite browns, so I always reach for it. I'm grabbing my foundational filler stamp and using some archival ink and hickory smoke to create a rock wall. I'm imagining this is some fancy English garden cottage. I'm not especially sure why, but that's what I'm going with. I don't want anything to look flat on this tag, so I'm going to grab some of the extra I have of Distress Oxide still on the mat, and I will color those stones in to add a little bit more dimension. Now I've kind of skipped around in this devotional. I don't really do the devotionals normally. I read them all at one time, usually. I just can't put them down. And then I go back and decide which ones I want a Bible journal and which ones really meant the most to me. And day 8 was one of those. And it really didn't hit me until recently, but this day is called This is War. Now this devotional is talking about how we're constantly in a spiritual battle and there's spiritual warfare. But what really reminds us and keeps us in check is that God has provided the armor of God, and so that we should be prepared. And this verse wasn't quoted in the devotional, but it reminds me of 1 Peter 3:15. I'll start at verse 13, which reads, "Now who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect." I want to make sure as I go through the Bible this year that I'm prepared to always be able to give a defense for the hope that's in me. I'm using one of the stamps that came with the kit. This is a hinge, and I covered up the words that were on the stamp because I didn't want to see them on the background. I thought it would look too busy. I added some gold embossing because I wanted that to blend in the background. I didn't want it to be a main focal point. I'm taping that vellum down with my Scotch ATG gun, and I'm making sure to place that vellum backwards so I actually see the softer side of the vellum. It's really hard for me to have a plain white background, so I grabbed some pumice stone, Distress Oxide, and also my gathered twigs, and I'll create this mixture of a colored background. This little blue piece of paper is actually a project I did last night with my Mink machine and 3D embossing folder. I had a little oops on it, so I cut it off the main part, but I still want to use it, so I'll just hide the problem area under the tag. The This I Know stamp was a bonus stamp this past month, and so I'm using that for my title. The clear embossing powder is my favorite because you can use it for so many different things. Here I'm using peeled paint distress oxide and then covering it with the clear embossing powder, which just gives me a glossy finish to my title. I notice when I lay this tag down flat on the page, I lose the look of the vellum. So I'll grab some foam dimensional tape and pop that off the page. These By the Well for God stencils are great for adding just a little hint of texture to the background. I'm taking out my Barely Arts precision glue and gluing those little pieces down. This glue will make them stay almost immediately, which is great when you're working with layers. As I place this foam dimensional tape down, I'm going to make sure that you can't see it if you peek through the vellum doors. My tab punch is coming in real handy today. I'm using it to create a tab for the top of my page with the paper that I created yesterday. Now I'm creating two sides because one of my pet peeves is seeing something from the back side that looks like it's unfinished. I always want to include my date, so I'll use this tab punch one more time. And that should do it. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and go ahead and follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I also have a new affiliate link with By the Well for God. If you'd like that, I will link that down below. I hope you have a great day. Bye.